righty, good morning. Join us on our call. It's a Monday, another Monday. And if I'm not wrong, this is the third, or is it the fourth Monday? I have to double check my calendar. Should be the fourth one. But whatever the case, this is another Monday, and we're at a point where we're now literally getting to the end of August, and then September will kick in, and before you know it, we'll be in the last quarter. And so every day that you wake up, every day that you live, you must be very deliberate about what you do. You've got to be very deliberate about what you wake up to, where you go to, what you intend to achieve, all those things. So special thank you to all those of you that watch us by Facebook. Thanks for being part of our call. One of the things I should also mention is that if you're watching this on YouTube, remember to subscribe to the channel and like this video and share it. Same story with those that are following on Facebook. Remember to also like the video, share it, and of course comment and give your take. I always like to do that because we realize that over time that so many people do follow these and are so blessed by them. So make sure that you stay connected to us, stay hooked in, stay plugged in, and continue to benefit. Now, we always have these meetings Monday to Friday. Mondays, myself, Tuesdays, Aunt Sylvia, Wednesdays, Anne Bachaita, who's in Toronto right now, so I'm standing in for her. Then Thursdays, Dr. Nelly, and Friday is our general presentation business opportunity. So today I'm jumping straight into the subject. I've been running with the subject for a while. It is the subject of the 9 leadership principles. So you don't want to miss that. And just in case you missed the other 2, you can get content for them from our channels, including this one. So we looked at be an attentive listener, and then we looked at own up to your mistakes, and then number 3, communicate with others. So today we pick it up and look at another 3 very critical ones. These being be creative, number 5, establish shared values, and number 6, continue honing your leadership ability. So let's jump straight into number 4. Now, leaders cannot sit back and expect their teams to be creative machines, okay? A successful leader must be innovative. Their role is to think outside the box, to be creative, and to inspire the rest of the team to do the same. Now, let's talk a bit about the idea of being innovative. I've always said that education, real education, does 4 things. Number 1, education teaches people how to write. Why? Because, let's start with the reading. Real education teaches people how to read, because what does reading do? Reading allows you to be able to harness and capture the ideas of all these things that are created out there. So whatever is out there, whatever ideas are shared by other great minds in the created world, we are able to harness these because we read. That's why reading expands the mind. That's why there's a well-known saying that goes, readers are leaders. Well, I mean, sometimes not all readers become leaders, but leaders definitely are readers. So they study the past, they learn from previous people. So reading is a very powerful concept. So that's the first thing education does. The second thing education does is teaches how to write so that you can conjure ideas from the realm of imagination onto paper. The first stage to manifesting anything from the realm of the imagination. Number 3, teaches how to count so that you can keep track of your progress. And number 4, which for me is very critical, is it teaches to innovate. Now, what is to innovate? To look at issues around you and find a creative way of bringing about a solution to a given problem. That's what innovation is. And if you think about it, innovation is the key to progress. So in any society, in any setup, whenever you have a situation where you don't see progress, it's because there are less innovators. And that's why education truly is the key to unlocking wealth. I have a big issue with schooling, but I have absolutely no issue with education, because it is the key. And that's why great leaders can actually help their teams understand larger long-term goals by seeing the bigger picture. This is why creativity is so important. Great leaders who innovate demonstrate to their teams that they are current and relevant, because most teams want to know that their leaders are aware of trends and are prepared for the future. In fact, I'll tell you something. If a leader does not demonstrate this ability to be aware of the future, they can be very disheartening to people around them. This is one of the reasons why you see talent exiting a number of places. I'm not saying you can't stop talent from existing. That's not possible. You always will have people who will come, they'll work with you for a particular season, and then they'll exit. That's understandable. But there is places where there's a higher than usual rate of talent exiting. And you find that talent is born there, but it never ends there. And that in itself is a sign of lack of creativity on the part of leadership. I'm not going to mention names, but one of the most well-known television stations in this country exemplifies this what I'm saying. This is a station that, if I today sit down and think of a number of people that have gone on to be names in the broadcasting space, in the journalist and broadcasting space, you see that all these hail their start at that particular place. Now, that particular place raised so many powerhouses when it comes to talent, but it never managed to harness and keep them. And when the trends were moving and things were changing, they were not smart enough to actually harness and retain them creatively and innovate. And so as a result, all this talent just exited. Very unfortunate situation. Today, that particular broadcasting house is just a former shadow of its glory. Why? Because they failed to innovate. And you know, innovation means leaders have to have this ability to see into the future, to anticipate what is coming, and to adjust accordingly, even as they are creating. Now, there are many other factors like managing people, communication, whatever, but this ability to remain at the cutting edge because of being creative is important. So as a result, they learn about innovation and technological trends and apply them to their organization on a regular basis. And this helps to ensure that they will not become obsolete. Now, leaders who innovate and think outside the box inspire their employees to grasp the vision and put it into action. I will tell you, again, back to that same particular establishment, they had so many ideas. You wouldn't even believe if I told you right now that some of the popular television series that are running on the leading pay to view, you know, the leading satellite television station we all kind of are subscribed to, which everybody always complains about. If you look at that particular channel, which is dedicated to a number of telenovas and daily soap operas, you will discover that a lot of those people that started, that are now producers, directors, writers of these particular soap operas, including some of the actors, were all born in this particular place. Now, do you see where I'm going? So they had this thing, you know, they had so much talent, but they just did not manage to retain it because of lack of creativity, lack of innovation. You see, innovation is the ability to anticipate a problem and effectively solve it so that you have less hemorrhaging. So I always say any place that hemorrhages a lot of talent is a sign in itself that they have a big problem. And unfortunately, they hemorrhaged massive talent, whether it's actors, whether it's producers, whether it's writers, whether it's journalists, whether it's cameramen. They just hemorrhage. Today, they don't even come close to what they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. They were the leaders in every aspect of business, but the inability to innovate and stay on the cutting edge when it comes to ensuring that you're evolving, because you got to evolve. You see, when you start something, you're a pioneer, so nobody else has done it before. So they're all watching and they're like, whoa, so that works. And then very quickly, others begin to now try to take what you've created and go create their own. And in the beginning, it looks like a useless, not so admirable attempt. But with time, they start to get better. And if you, as a leader, are not alert to this transformation, you lose it. You will get to a point where one day you wake up and you just don't have that kind of talent anymore. This talent is gone. It's exited and gone into other places and is being utilized there. So it's a very unfortunate situation I've seen for many companies, because they don't manage to really harness this thing as they ought to. They end up losing so much talent to think it through and to work it through. I find that very sad when you think about how great some of these companies have been in the past. So losing that kind of talent because of your inability to harness these innovative transformations as and when they come is a very unfortunate situation. So one ought to be sure that they never allow themselves to fall that way. Now we come to the next one, which is number 5, and that is to establish shared values. This is one of the greatest components of leadership, in my opinion. Why? Because values are the, how can I put it? They are the factor, though not written, that ensures the integrity of the organization. The word integrity means remaining whole and complete without any fault or any structural problems. That's what integrity means. So when we say the integrity of the building, that means the wholeness and solidity and stance of that building. If we talk about the integrity of an individual, we're saying that they are complete, whether in public or private. What you see is what you get. That's what integrity is. And it is integrity that also brings values. Now, great leaders understand the significance of values. They have their own set of standards, morals, and values that they expect their team to follow, which we call a code of ethics, if you will. Now, there is little room for confusion or misunderstanding when the team shares common values. So good leaders always encourage and hold their teams to the same standard of ethical and moral behavior in the workplace. They are concerned with the professionalism and want to ensure that everyone else is as well. So what do? They set a good example, but they also have clear expectations about their values, so there is no room for misunderstanding. The right value aid in the establishment of great company culture for the team. And if there is a problem with values, they deal with it quickly and professionally. Again, my friends, those listening on Facebook, those listening on here on Zoom, it's a very unfortunate situation when you have mixed signals. That's why we talked about integrity. You see, integrity is being the same in public and in private. It's being the same with what you say and what you do. When you match the two, they are the same. Values are born out of that. So when you say, for example, what values do we have? Honesty. What does that mean? That means whatever we do, we are as honest as possible. Transparency. What does that mean? That means whatever we do, we communicate clearly to people around us so they understand. When we talk about trustworthy, what does that mean? That means even when people are not looking, we are faithful to do what we were told to do. So these are examples. Now there are many values. So you can go and there's over 400 values. In fact, those of you who are part of our mentorship team, I actually posted something called the values list. It's 400 values. And from those, you tend to, for those who want to start living by a code of values, you can actually go and look it through and begin to pick all these items that you think are going to be ideal for what you do. Now, one of the other things that for me is very critical, when we talk about values, we also need to look at, for example, I'm a Christian. So if I'm a Christian, what values are expected for a Christian? What would make part of your values? And you know, it's amazing that even for people who may not recognize it openly, they can actually tell a genuine Christian from a fake one by just looking at their value proposition. What is it that you bring to the table? And are you really faithful with it? So when you say, for example, you know, the issue of being truthful, or the issue of being faithful, or the issue of being or having integrity. It means if you borrow from people and you tell those people that I will pay you on this day, and you fail to pay them for any number of reasons. I mean, this is business we're talking about. If you're not able to pay them, then what is expected is that you would go back to them. They don't have to follow you. Integrity demands that you go back to them and apologize and say, look, guys, I'm sorry. I know I promised that I would pay by this time, but I haven't. Please bear with me. ABCD, I will do by this time. But let your information be clear. Let people see. When you talk about we do not accept bribes, let that be seen. When we talk about we do not give jobs on nepotism but on merit, that must show. Okay, and these are things. If you know, whatever it is, I don't know what it is. And remember, everyone has different values, and that's why those values must be communicated clearly and must be lived by. Now, for example, the ministry where I belong, the Potter's House, has what they call ministry standards. I admire how much Potter's House is very strict when it comes to the execution of ministry standards. There are no sacred cows at our church. And for me, that is what integrity is. We've had incidences where beloved and really loved pastors have found themselves in what I'm going to call compromised situations in terms of their integrity. For example, the issue of debt or the issue of financial mismanagement. These are big deals. At our church, because of that, one of our beloved pastors had to be asked to come back, something that was very painful for the pastor, of course, but even for the leadership, because this particular pastor had the best performing of all the branches that were launched in his time coming forward. So from his time coming forward, his branch, he and his wife had successfully launched a very good branch, and he was doing very well. Numbers were there. They had obtained their own place. They were now running there, and they were doing so well. But it's unfortunate that they found themselves in this mess. And so integrity, values, standards demanded that the leaders of our church had to ask them to come back and sit in our church. And what has that meant? It has meant there's been a huge impact, negative impact on his church and the people there. But what does integrity demand? What do values demand in our church? It demands that if there's an aspect of those standards that are given as ministry standards which are flouted, they have to be followed. I respect that. And I think if we could see more churches, more businesses live by standards which they live to, they say, this is our standard. We are not dropping below this. If we drop, we must work to get back to this. And you know what they say? The culture of a particular ministry or a particular leader or a particular visionary is what permeates every aspect of the company. So if you see a great culture in a company, you're seeing the culture of the CEO. That's why leadership is everything. That's why everything rises and falls on leadership. I personally get shocked at the level of double standards I see, especially in the church, because for me, the church should be the pioneer. The church should be the pace setter. The church should be setting the standard, not today. Today, the church is lamentingly behind when it comes to integrity, when it comes to values, when it comes to transparency. I mean, some churches you've never even seen their annual, annual books or whatever it is. Many churches you don't see the habit of financial integrity and financial accountability. I mean, so much is not seen because the leadership are flagrantly flouting all these standards. And that's why they can't grow. That's why these things just end up personal empires with no growth whatsoever, because they are not really integrating this level of leadership. What am I saying? Establish shared values and stick with them. And remember, if there's a problem with values, deal with it quickly and professionally. That's one part that a lot of leadership fails, because when it comes to dealing with issues, they say, what's that going to mean for me? That means I'm going to lose that person. I'm going to lose that ministry. I'm going to lose this. I'm going to lose that. And so purely because of lack of integrity, purely because of lack of standards, they drop and they say, you know what, let's just sweep it under the carpet. And you know what? When you sweep stuff under the carpet, that already shows you are not a person of integrity, man or woman of integrity. And I assure you, that thing you push under the carpet will come back later to haunt you, because you cannot break your own values if you are a serious leader. A leader that intends to build a legacy into the future. If you want to build a great legacy, you must be willing to be bound by your own standards. And who better as an example than God himself? God created man, man failed, and man was doomed for destruction because he could never reach God's standard. So how did God make the standard achievable for this fallen man? He had to become a man, then die for the sin of that man. Die for what that man did wrong. Then now he as a man could now meet the standard that God required. You see that? Now for me, that's literally not dropping the standard. All he did is become the standard. And then everybody else just believes in this man and this standard that this man God called Jesus Christ. This God called Jesus Christ. They could wear that. They could put on that standard, and automatically the power to live by the standard of God is imputed. Profound as a demonstration of value and how to live by value and standards. Which brings me to the last point real quick. The last point is continue honing your leadership abilities. Now, this is a really powerful point. A good leader understands that practice makes perfect. So to remain a good leader on a daily basis, you must practice and work at it. Okay, this can include reading books or articles, listening to podcasts, attending workshops, or even returning to school for different degrees. You know, that's the reason we run what we run, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we do these 7:30 calls. Let me tell you, as a leader, because of having to come to this thing, I must learn. I must go read so that I have something to present. And that in itself makes you more likely to keep honing your skills, because you can't lead on what you learned yesterday. You must always be innovating. And that means go back to school, keep improving your skill. Now, leaders demonstrate their commitment to learning about new strategies and trends, demonstrating to their employees that they are dedicated to self-improvement. And that, my friends, is a huge factor. You can tell someone is not improving by simply looking to see, because remember, when you start with people, they're new. It's almost like a church, they're disciples. It's like anything, they're just new, they're there. So obviously you're the epitome and the standard. But if you are a genuine leader and are training and teaching, one day those people reach your level. And I do believe very much in the idea of casting and handing them out to go and be their own leaders. I believe that's what great leaders do. But at the same time, because you were the one that brought them in, great leaders are always striving to reach a greater mark. In fact, Paul himself said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. So Paul was not satisfied with just sitting, being the same level he was. He was always striving, seeking, learning, trying to get to an even better level, reaching that mark of perfection. Timothy was told, study to show yourself approved, rightly dividing the word of truth. Okay, so study to show yourself approved. See, being able to defend the truth for which you believe. We cannot sit and be the same level and say, oh, thank you. As long as I can park here, I'm good. No, you must always be constantly improving. Even if you exit that space, as long as you're alive and you have breath, learning never ends, because our brains and our minds are designed that we can keep taking more. We only use 5% of our minds, for crying out loud. There's so much more we could harness in these brains. So why stop and reach a place and say, I think in Africa? No, we can always learn something new. You can always go to refresher courses. That's why great ministries, great companies are always having annual meetings with their workers, with staff. Associations have annual get-togethers. What's the idea behind that? They call all peers together. They bring experts from various industry and even their own industry so that they can learn what are the trends, what's the cutting edge in our industry, what can we do to improve, what are the persistent issues, and how can we tackle those? That's what honing your leadership abilities is. Don't just sit and park and say, we know everything. No, you don't know everything. No one reaches there, my friend. The only one who knows everything is God Almighty. The rest of us are a work in progress. Even in your 70s, you can learn something new. 80s, you can learn something new. I mean, the only thing that stops you from learning is because probably your mind is kind of started getting foggy or whatever it is. But if that doesn't happen, keep learning. Take up a new skill, take up a new art. I've always said that the day I retire from working for a living and start working for purpose, I'm going to learn so many new skills. I'm going to go back to some of my latent sleeping skills, like my music. I'm going to go back to that because now I have time to learn even more, and I'll get to learn about how to play better and, you know, get my fingers and art back together. I will do that because then I'll have the time and the luxury to pursue it. So employees may be inspired to work on self-improvement as a result of seeing you as the leader always self-improving. Do you know, Chimbesan and Sony, it makes people feel funny or shameful when you see your boss is the one doing things you are not doing. That's why, you know, that's why great generals, great leaders are in the field with their people, working and learning. I assure you, when you have a workshop or a seminar and you see the CEO walk in to sit in that seminar, sure, everybody is alert. It's like, oh my God, we thought this was just, you know, us. No, it's everyone. Even the CEO wants to sit in there and see what's going on, just to make sure he's encouraging. Just that fact that he's sitting in there, it already encourages everybody in that meeting to say, my God, I need to pay attention. So a good leader is always looking for ways to improve, connect with their employees more, and be the best leader they can be. In short, the only time you stop learning is when you are no longer able to, because you are dead. You know, that's what I always say. I mean, that's the only time, honestly, when I'll stop learning. When I'm dead, when I'm 6 feet under. But for as long as I'm alive and kicking, and as long as I have the ability and breath in me, and I have a mind to think, eyes to see, ears to hear, I will learn. And that's what every great leader should be doing. You should be learning all the time. Don't just sit there and say, we're Tafika. We know everything. No, you don't know everything. There's always something amazing, new and exciting, innovative that is coming in your space, and it just changes everything. In fact, let me close by saying this. You know, in business and in the world as we know it, there's what are called disruption or disruptors or disruption. COVID was a good example of a disruptor. The internet was a disruptor. Okay, smartphones, disruptors. The cell phone actually is a disruptor. You know, internet dongles like this, disruptor. You know, there's always something out there that comes and disrupts established norms. So I assure you, as long as you and I are alive in this world, there will always be a disruptor. And because there's a disruptor, what does that mean for you and me? It means we must always strive every single time to look at ways and means in which we can be constantly at the cutting edge of what is happening. Do you know that that's the only way as a leader you can actually be a pioneer? When you're on the cutting edge. You say, no, but here, you know, those things only work in Europe. Yeah, but there was a time when we never used smartphones, when we never had internet out there, that when we didn't have so many things, we were using mail, you know, like you write a letter in envelope and seal it and take it and put a stamp. There was a time we were using that. But disruptive innovation came in, and we had to change. We had to adapt. And my friends, that's just how life is. Life is always full of new things happening. And so as a leader, it is absolutely imperative that you make yourself a learner. Be learning, be studying, be on the cutting edge of your space. get into associations, get into organizations. When you hear there's a course over there, go and learn it. When you hear there's some new innovations over here, go learn. I hear a lot of people say very disparaging remarks about motivation speakers. They are very foolish people who do that, because even those motivation speakers, that's what they are good at. They motivate. So we listen and we get inspired. Some people, that's their gift. So go learn from them as well. Don't ever get to a day when you say, I think I know everything. No, keep learning. You will be amazed. Join associations. You will be blown away by what you learn from all these different people, and make sure you're innovating. Bring it into your company, and people under you will see that, oh, the boss, this is what they do. Let me also do the same. So they'll become inspired. But if the boss never does anything, I mean, those who are very serious will just exit. They'll say, at this place, there's no room for growth. There's nothing going on here. This place is useless. And that's why, let me close with this. That's why many good companies encourage employees to pursue their education. You see, even if that means that they exit, it's okay. But what I love about it is that as they are pursuing that education, they appreciate the fact that you as a company encourage that, and you give room for that. So they will serve you even more diligently as they get that qualification. And if you are no longer able to afford them, nice handshake, thank you for being part of us, let them go and let someone else come in. But the beauty is always be a company, an organization, an institution that encourages people to learn and to improve, including yourself. So on that note, we come to the end of our meeting today. Thank you, every single one of you that has been part of our call. We're grateful. I will be back on Wednesday with the 7 Capitals. I have gotten so much amazing feedback on the 7 Capitals teaching. So looking forward to see if I can finish the last 3 on Wednesday, which sounds like science fiction. Maybe I might just do 2 and then 1 the other week, whenever, because Anne will be back. But tomorrow, Aunt Sylvia is back with Mindset Change program. That thing has been a powerful help for many people. Dr. Nelly comes through on Thursdays with Prosperity for Your Soul. And one of the things that's happening, we have tickets for the Coaches Summit on the 17th. If you are listening to this presentation, this show this morning, and you are interested in being part of the Coaches Summit, I'm going to be there, and Sylvia's going to be there. Dr. Nelly, of course, is the host. And then a lot of coaches, some of them even on this call right now, are going to be part of that thing. It'll be profound. You do not want to miss that. Tickets are $150. I have them. You can simply get in touch with me via just text right now. You can just say, hey, Rev, I need a ticket. Or you can call. In fact, all my numbers are on Facebook. Just go on Facebook, look under my About. You will see my numbers there. You can find the number for WhatsApp, the number for calling me. Call me and say, Rev, I need a ticket. I need 2 tickets. We'll get you into the Coaches Summit. 150 kwacha. We have tickets with us. So on that, and by the way, the summit, I think, is on the 17th of September. So make sure you do not miss. That's a Saturday, 17th September. Our host, Dr. Nelly Kangwa. So from myself, until tomorrow, have a blessed day and cheerio.